Hey guys, it's Sadie, and today I'm going to be sharing with you a time-lapse, again from 2020 because I suck at editing, of my Kiss the Girl Ariel dress that I made. I pretty much recorded the whole process of this, so I'm just going to walk you through it, and I probably won't talk the whole time. Who knows? I'm laying out my pattern pieces here so that I have each piece pulled from the pile as I need it, and then I begin pinning everything together on the top layer to sew it together. I drafted the pattern for the corset myself, so I cannot give you a pattern to buy for this. However, if I was going to recommend a pattern that you can buy, I would recommend searching the Rabbit and Hat Sewing Patterns website. It's owned by a single woman who has done patterning for most of her career, and she does a great job, and I can vouch that her patterns work really well, and they're usually beginner friendly. The bodice is made from velvet and it's lined with a canvas. I wanted to kind of spruce it up and add some extra details, so here I'm cutting out applique that I've had and pinning it to the bodice where I want to hand sew it in place. I really took my time with this, and I found that I really find this process relaxing and very satisfying once I'm done with it. One thing that I have found is that if you don't press your fabric and your seams properly, you will not be as satisfied with the results. So as tedious as it can be, I highly recommend always taking the time to iron your pieces and press them where you should. It really pays off in the end. Once my lining layer was complete, I decided to make my own boning channels for this out of the same lining fabric. So here I'm just cutting different channels of the same width, and I didn't really care about length because I could cut those down afterwards and laying them out where I wanted the boning channels to be. Once they're pinned in place, I just sewed forever until all of the boning channels were stitched down. This project came before I learned how much I enjoy using steel boning over other types of boning that are available. So for this project, I'm using industrial strength zip ties for my boning, and I'm just inserting them into the channels and making sure they're the right length before I sew it all together. I think I'm also holding it up here to my body to make sure that I liked how it was laying against me before I decided not to add any more boning channels. To finish this corset, I pinned it all together and then flipped it inside out, so that's exactly what I'm doing here. Now that that's all stitched together, I am going to go in and trim the excess seam allowance and also clip my corners and curves so that when I flip it, it lays a lot nicer since I can't press velvet as much as I can other materials. Once I'd stitched together the ends of it and made it all pretty, I went ahead and I added my grommets so that I could lace it up in the back. After I finished the corset, I wanted to move on to the skirt, which admittedly I did a little funky. I did a circle skirt for the base of the skirt, or the lining, and then I did a gathered skirt for the detailed lace that I chose for the outer layer of this part of the project. Here I'm just measuring everything and pinning it together to make sure that I have all the pieces and that I'll be good when I go to sew it. Again, I am measuring and making sure that I'm cutting to the length that I want. I skipped over the part where I sewed the lining together, but it's very basic stitches. So now that I know the length of the overall skirt that I need to cover, I'm measuring a few inches longer and cutting this down and then gathering it up, which you'll see here. Gathering that takes a really long time, but it looks really nice and pretty when it's all put together. Once the base layer was done and the gathered skirt, I was able to pin them together and attach both layers to each other. Okay, so here is the one part of this time lapse that actually is not what the finished product ended up looking like, but if you know how to attach a waistband, it's essentially the same process. However, this is not the final waistband that remained in this skirt. It actually made me cry and put this project down for a year until I could pick it back up and finish it, and even then we had some difficulty. A friend helped me to finally attach a waistband that for some reason didn't shrink as I was sewing the fabric together, but this version ended up being about 3 inches too small for my waist, but we were able to eventually get it to work and it turned out gorgeous. The last little part of this is just making sure that the circle skirt is not hanging at a weird angle where it's longer than the rest of the skirt. And then I move on to the undershirt. For this shirt, I did use a base pattern from a dirndl pattern. The pattern itself was Berta 8448. I just used that so that I could get the shape right. I am cutting out all the pieces here, and then I later modify the sleeve so that it has a gathered shape at my elbows so that it is not just a straight sleeve. The final step of this was to press everything flat and to make sure that the neckline was really crisp, and when I sewed the hem of the neckline down, there was no wrinkles or anything. And then, you don't see it here, but I did attach lace to the sleeves and some pearls along the neckline of this for that little extra bit of sparkle. And of course, you cannot have Ariel's Kiss the Girl dress without her beautiful big hair bow, so I used the Cosmic Coterie bow pattern to make a large bow for my hair. So I'm just laying out all the pieces. I used the shirt as the lining for the bow and then used the lace from the skirt to tie it all together and make a really nice accessory that would draw attention to her hair. So this is right before I finished the whole thing up, but I'm basically pointing and probably talking to myself saying that I'm gonna wrap that around and hand stitch it down and then add a clip so it'll stick in my hair just like this beautiful picture from my friend John. And this is the final product. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you have questions, feel free to ask them below. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and if you liked it, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.